Well, now more than a decade after the U.S. launched the war in Iraq, it has transformed into a fight with ISIS. But it's just as frustrating and complex as it was 10 years ago. And just this morning, U.S. officials tell NBC News the fall of Ramadi was a result of a, quote, breakdown in military support and discipline of Iraqi forces, due in large part to Baghdad's total neglect of the Sunni provisional capital and military forces there. And joining me now, David Tafuri, former State Department official who worked as the rule of law coordinator in Iraq. Also with me, Amber Smith, a veteran of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. She's also senior military advisor for Concerned Veterans for America. And David, let me start with you. What do you make of what Morell had to say? Does it change the way we should look at what happened in 2003?
Well, it's interesting. I think we pretty much knew that already, that the connection was very weak between al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein's government. And, of course, we now have ISIS in Iraq. That's basically al-Qaeda 2.0. So some of the things that happened in Iraq during the Bush administration provided the ground for ISIS to be successful in Iraq. The fall of Ramadi is very much of concern. It shows in a very dramatic fashion the weaknesses in our effort to confront ISIS in Iraq. We have an Iraqi army that is not strong at all. We have a government in Baghdad that has promised to reach out to the Sunni communities, but has displayed very little reach into Sunni areas like Ramadi. For instance, many reports suggest...
Right, but if I could, I mean, there is a difference between a connection being very weak and a connection that doesn't exist.
Well, that's absolutely correct. And as more information comes out, like Morell's now speaking about it, it seems to be that there was almost no connection at all. But I think that was, again, pretty well known that the basis for going into Iraq to fight al-Qaeda made no sense at the time.
All right, and Amber, let's talk about the issue that David just brought up about Ramadi, a city where more than 200 Americans died. It's now in ISIS' hands. How important is it to get that back?
Well, the fall of Ramadi is a huge, significant gain for ISIS. It's 70 miles west of Baghdad. It's a supply route into Syria and on into Jordan. And that's going to be really tough in the way the strategy, if you want to call it, in which we're fighting ISIS in Iraq. And what we're seeing right now with just these targeted the airstrikes, and we're training the Iraqi Army and sort of assisting with some of their military plannings for their operations. They have no leadership on the ground, so we're giving them these sort of crash course in learning to fight a war, but then when the Iraqi soldiers have to go out into these cities and fight back against this very brutal organization, ISIS, they don't have the leadership on the ground to fight back against them.
Here's the question, Amber. I mean, what has happened? Because for more than 10 years, the United States has been in the position of supporting, aiding, training, arming the Iraqi armed forces, Amber. And any time, it seems, in the past couple of years, when they are confronted by some opposition, they run and run and run.
Well, in the point that you just made, in the past almost decade, they have had U.S. support the entire step of the way until the very political decision, the bad decision was made to pull out all U.S. troops in 2011, which allowed ISIS to gain strength and come in and take over Iraq.
Armed forces. The armed forces seem that their modus operandi is when things get hot, they run away.
That's nothing new. That's nothing new.
Right.
That the Iraqis are not able to fight off a terrorist organization like ISIS, just like they weren't able to fight back when al-Qaeda gained strength in Iraq after Saddam fell. This is we have to look big picture here. Iraq is not going to be able to fight this war on its own. They are looking for leadership elsewhere, and they're not getting it from the U.S. right now, which is why they're taking in any help they can get from Iran.
It would be helpful, I think, if people that live in a country and an armed forces that is equipped to deal with national crises can handle it. Looking elsewhere is important. But, I mean, sometimes you got to pay your own piper. Amber Smith and David Tafuri, thank you both for being with me. I so appreciate it.